sense. And my parents literally moved here because of the green trees. Apparently in Houston we have no zoning laws, and there's just nothing there except for desert. So my parents moved here when I was 7, and I've been really involved in Gwinnett, in the state of Georgia. And I basically stayed at Georgia, went to Parkview, and then I also went to Georgia Tech as a Korean American in Georgia, in the U.S. I never thought I was Korean or even Asian, to be honest, because when I went to Parkview, this is back, and and there was no. I was pretty much the only Asian guy there, and my friends were really cool because I never really noticed that there was that I was different. I went off-roading, I went cow tipping, I can turn on my southern drawl. I can do, I can do whatever I need to do. So I never really had like I never really felt the importance of needing to be Korean or setting myself out as Asian American or defining myself as Asian American. It kind of came more after when I came to Tech. And when I went to Tech, that's when I kind of realized, wow, there's a lot of different people here. And although Atlanta is like the grounds for the civil rights movements and all this other stuff, I never really noticed that. Literally, I thought I was hanging out with, there was none. You still get the little bit more like, hey, what brand of Asian are you? And you're like, well, what brand of white are you? Like, you get the question like that as you go, but it's, I didn't take any offense to it, and it never really bothered me or affected me. But I had my notes too. So I never really grew up with any adversity that I thought, but what you're seeing, and I guess I'll kind of give you a quick historical lesson, and I want you guys to keep drinking that green bottle drink because that'll make you drunker and that'll sound better. But I'm a 2.0. I'm considered a 2.0. Our 1.0s are the Koreans that live in Korea. The immigrants are the 1.5. So my parents would be considered a 1.5 generation, and I'm considered a 2.0. And then my children would be the 3.0 because obviously I'm not leaving. I'm staying here and stuff like that. And what you're going to see is a little bit of an identity crisis between the more of the 2.0 generation. You're going to see a lot of my parentals or the 1.5s. They're so busy trying to make a living, trying to fulfill the American dream of owning real estate, or making sure the education of their children is intact. Because obviously one of the signs of growing out of poverty or wherever socioeconomic status you have is education. And so, my parents were very ingrained with that. We moved because of schools, and depending on where they wanted to make sure that we were at the top schools, typical Asian family. And but you're going to see a lot of the identity crises happening because I'm not totally on this side. I'm not totally American, even though I consider myself an American. I was born here. I have my U.S. passport. But then on the flip side, I'm not exactly totally Korean either. I'm not completely embraced by the Korean community either, even though I am fluent. Even though that I do go to Korea and I do a lot of business back and forth. So one of the things that I realized after graduation and working with a lot of clients is the importance of giving back to the community. And so one of the reasons why I do sit on a lot of nonprofit boards, I sit on about 8 of them, and I'll go through the list, is because I don't know how to say no. But it's also because it's up to the second generation, it's up to my generation to kind of step in where my parents couldn't do, where my parents couldn't help and give back to the community because they're so busy working that it's up to me to kind of fill that gap, and up to me and my peers who's been here. We can go back and forth into different cultures. We're kind of we may be stuck in the middle, but we actually understand this side a little bit. We understand this side a little bit, so we can kind of go back and forth into different cultures. So, on the Korean side, I sit on the Korean American Scholarship Foundation. I sit on the Korean American Coalition, their national chapters. National organizations with local chapters here. I do serve as your president liaison to South Korea on behalf of the National Association of Realtors, and I also serve as your local chapter president of the Asian American Real Estate Association, which focuses on homeownership rights for the Asian American community. On the American side of stuff, I do sit on the National Association of Realtor board. I also serve on the board of the United Way. I serve on the board of Gwinnett Clean and Beautiful, Gwinnett Place CID, and most recently I was appointed into. I was actually appointed into the Gwinnett County Public Schools Foundation as a trustee. So I was very thankful that they had actually invited me and actually asked me to come and be a trustee and give a voice to the Asian American community that's growing. It's changing. The dynamics are changing in the state, You see that with Kia, a lot of the manufacturing plants that are coming in. You know, Georgia is a hotbed of a lot of foreign investments. You're going to continue to see that. And Korea and U.S. have a very long history. Korea and Georgia have a very long history together. The Korean anthem was written by a gentleman, if I'm not mistaken, please don't video record this, but I believe it was Yoon Chi-ho, and he is the writer of the National Korean Anthem. He actually went to Oxford University back in 1890s. So we have a very long history together, and then of course the Korean population, if you kind of see the restaurants and everything, you kind of saw them coming after the Olympics. Because everyone, when they came here, they realized the cost of living is cheaper. It's cheaper than LA, New York, and plus, at the time, the president actually went to Emory University. So Georgia's put on the map, and ever since then, you see a lot of the immigrant Korean population kind of coming into Georgia and setting ground and moving on from there. But I guess what I want to just talk about and let you guys know, and as you see people and you see guys like me, I think. There's a cliche, and I hate using this cliche, but everyone says there's bridging the gaps between the different communities. I think it's an overused term. Everyone says it, and I think that the gaps are already, or the bridges are already there between the different communities. I really do. Now, this is how I'm going to change it and twist it out a little bit. If the bridges are there between the different communities, we have, but there's different types of bridges. Some bridges are built with wood. Some bridges are built with steel. Some are very narrow. Some are very wide. Some bridges have a lot of people walking back and forth. Some bridges have nobody walking back and forth. But the bridges are there. So I think it's really important that people like me or my generation actually start solidifying and making sure that those bridges are more intact, and they are more people go back and forth on them, and they're both stronger. And that's the way that I envision a lot of the Korean community or the Asian American community or the Latino community working together. And it's not that the Asian community is over here and we're always going to be on this side, or the Latino community is going to be on here, and the Caucasian community is going to be over here, and the Black community over here. There's different bridges between every community, and it's all about working together and making sure that we understand each other. I mean, there are always going to be cultural differences that we will never know, and that's what people like me, or my second generation, or my first generation, is all about. There are still some stuff that I can never do because I'm still either too young or I'm an American. They consider me an American. If I go to Korea, they will consider me as an American. They don't really consider me as a Korean all that much, even though I can still speak the language, like I said. So I encourage everyone to support, and encourage guys like me, or guys that are coming out into the community that really want to do nonprofit work and really help the other communities. And I list all my, you mentioned some of the accolades, and the accolades, I can't take them for myself because they're not really from me. They're because of my mentors and the previous people that have been able to pave the way, so to speak, for me to be able to do what I do. And I'm always indebted. I'm always looking for ways to give back. And even though I'm always dying because I sit on all these boards, that's just my passion. This is what I do. This is how I know that I can give back into the community and help my parents. Because I know that my parents couldn't. They wanted to, but they just couldn't. They weren't able to. So that's the way that I give back, and I expect my